Hello, viewers. Welcome once again. We're still here having a nice time with Jacob, and I believe that whatever you are learning from here, you can easily apply them to your work here and now in your various organizations, in your own side gigs. Um, the conversation is getting much more interesting, looking at the people side of project management and how Jacob has been engaging his stakeholders on previous projects. We have looked at a situation where you have a deadlock in terms of a major stakeholder bringing in a form of change request in a situation where it can be met, and on the other side where it cannot be met. And we have discussed the ways to go about all that. Now, Jacob, we engage in projects, and there is one particular aspect of it called risk management. Yeah. How have you utilized your risk management regime, and how do you identify your risk? How do you manage them on your projects?
Frank, thank you so much. One area that is of concern to me a lot, because before you start every project, first of all, when you had the intent to even go into that project, you have to start looking at the possible risk of why and how you will be able to maneuver your way out if it should occur. And it's not something that we can say that it shouldn't happen. There are risks going to be there, but they should be controlled. So first of all, you need a risk register to identify the one that you can control and the one that you cannot control. So those that are internal and those that are externally orchestrated. Now, within these two segments, the best thing that gives you that comfort, because already you're a professional within the same discipline, that you've emerged into the project management role as a project manager, you can equally tell the possible things that may happen from the beginning, from the beginning at the end. Okay. So all the things that may come up on top of your head, you have to list it in the risk register. Then, not being too bossy, you also have to take a step back, stand behind the team, and ask them what can they also see from their perspective. Because you remember that you have different diversified team members coming together from different disciplines to help you execute the project. They may also tell you from where they see. Then you further come down and classify them to high, medium, or low. Okay. Then you don't leave it there. Then you look at the possible way out if and only if it occurs. Okay. If and only if it occurs.
Okay. Now, so in that case, you are talking about the impact, right?
The impact of the risk if it occurs. And one thing that you may also have to appreciate is that for my practice, I don't like to go in and shout to the stakeholder that this is the risk, therefore you have to step in, unless it is part of the one that I cannot control.
Okay.
But if it's within our control as a PM, we find a way to work with the team to ensure that it's being controlled and the best possible alteration or recommendation is being executed from a professional point of view to ensure that we don't run into any deadlocks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So whilst you identify your risk, you also go ahead to prefer possible strategies, which may include mitigation, avoidance, total avoidance, transfer. And whilst you do this, how do you quantify the cost of those individual risks should they occur in order for you to incorporate them into your budgets? How do you go about doing that?
Okay, so for every project, there's a budget defined. Okay, so when it comes to the budget definition of the projects, any possible risk that has been listed, which is going to impact the financial of the project, means that it is not within your control because you're not the sponsor.
Yeah.
Okay, so that you may have to find a way to go back again with a position paper and let the whole stakeholders appreciate that this is the possible risk that is ahead and unexpected cost association to the risk identified. But where the risk that has been identified is it can be controlled within budgets, okay? Then you may want to look at it. I'll give a typical example within the technology space. I'll look at it from, let's say, the people, the process, and then the technology. If it's a people risk, like you're saying, we'll find a way to manage it because it may not have any, unless the resource that we are actually having is ill, okay, or actually not in the position to continue with the work, then we may have to replace the person. So what it means is that whatever we do, we get the same quality of the resource, however, within the same scope of entitlements, so we can actually continue seamlessly. However, we are also going to ensure that we make the necessary communication to the project sponsor, where the risk, like unforeseen expenditure, okay, is coming in. It's not within your control. So therefore, we might have to give some sort of variations. This is the option we want to go for. This is the other option we want to go for. And these are the various cost components. And we feel that this will be the best way, even though it's going to change the initial budgets that we've actually given. And this is going to be the projected actual cost of the projects.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. From the very inception of the project, when it comes to the project charter and the other documentations, the high-level risk would already be listed in there. So from the very inception, stakeholders may have the hindsight of those kind of high-level risks. But then as you drill down during your planning stage, then the other risk become more apparent, and then you are able to appreciate them. And they usually or would obviously have impact on budget and sometimes even on the schedule as well. Now, whilst you do all this, is there any particular tool that you use in the scoping that can also help you identify risk? Typically, let me mention WBS.
Okay.
How do you utilize WBS in scoping and also helping you identify your risk?
Okay. Frank, thank you so much. So for me, as I said earlier on, I'm very simple. I keep it simple, okay? And I've been strong leverage on Microsoft products when it comes to the tools for project management and the risk identification. I don't necessarily leverage on Excel, okay, but everything ends up in Excel, right? And what I largely work with is the Microsoft projects, okay. It gives you all the various functionality to design the initial stage of the projects based on the mandates, the resource allocation, the risk, and you get your nice reports and dashboards if you are supposed to even generate a management reports on costing, work breakdown structure, and then that is the WBS, and even any sub-activity that is going to impact a particular phase of the project. All those things are actually given to you within the Microsoft projects.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So how does the WBS help you in scoping? I mean, and also the identification of risk? Because usually when you decompose your project from the very high level to your work packages, activities level, and all that, now you have your WBS. It helps you in the scoping. How does it help you? How do you utilize it? And then how does it also help you identify the risk?
Okay, so you see, when you talk about the work breakdown structure, it gives you the minute activity or task that will perform, that will actually roll up to ensure that you actually get a full realization of the project. So at that level, it is no more a high-level assumption. It's the actual. It's really tactical. We need to, like, for example, we need to buy 10 hard drives. It is very defined. So if it goes beyond 10, that point, that stage, you'll be able to know that, look, then we need extra money to actually get one more.
Great.
Assuming we buy 10, and in terms of the delivery, we received it, but unfortunately there's an oversight on the project team member, and whatever we received, 2 was damaged. It becomes a risk. Okay, so it means that there will be another cost incurred at that level. So the WBS gives you that power, that whole power to be able to know as a project manager if and only if you are focusing on the details of your tracker, okay, to know where we are and what stage of work has been done. And then you look at acceptance certificates internally before you have your external one. So everybody is responsible for what level of work that has been associated to the person and acceptance of the work done, if it has passed validation or passed quality assurance before you move to the next stage. So that aspect, I don't take it lightly at all, because that is the least level. If you don't find it there, then Frank, where else will you find your risk association coming from? Yeah.
Okay, great. And when it comes to risk management, there are a number of project managers who actually shy away from it, because if you look at the quantitative aspect of it, that is quite easy looking at. Yeah. But when it comes to the qualitative aspect, that is where it becomes a bit more scientific and a bit more technical. And that causes a number of project managers and project professionals to shy away from it. Nonetheless, the consequences can be dire. And so what would be your advice to project managers and project professionals when it comes to taking risk identification and management seriously?
Thank you so much, Frank. So when it comes to risk, okay, like you said, rightfully said, the numbers do not lie. And if it's numbers, it's precise. There's precision. But again, when you flip it on the qualitative aspects, whatever you are doing, that you are reporting a degree of, let's say, 80%, the people must tell you before you come and mention it. So for any risk register to be insulated properly, before you read your risk, or you actually come back and say that these were the possible risk, but it has been mitigated, the people or the community or the stakeholders should even tell you before you read your own. And that is how you'll be able to manage your risks. So your focus shouldn't be on the numbers of reporting, but your focus should be on the avoidance, or how you mitigate it within the work, where everybody is seeing that when we're actually developing, we're headed up to the point that we were not able to continue. It was not working. We all saw it. But before you come back and say that, oh, we've been able to get somebody with certain special skill to help us go past it, they are even they are preaching the gospel before you even came in to report it. And that makes it scientific. And there are some instances whereby, trust me, I worked on a project whereby there was a particular challenge, 1 to 12 a.m. The following day we are going live, 11 p.m., 12 a.m., 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and something happened. 5:30, something happened. We couldn't find what happened. We're doing something, not scientific. You don't know what happened, but yeah, there's a result. And that is where I talk about grace. And you can't explain it. And you also don't want to go back and then find out how, you don't even get the answers. So then before you come and report that, oh, this was the challenge and this thing, the people already saying that, oh, say it is working. They have fixed it. Then they ask you, what did you do? So it's a bit technical.
Whoa.
Yes.
Interesting. Now, how do you deal with situations where you are rolling out, let's say, a software, either a new installation or an upgrade, or a whole system going live? How do you deal with a rollback plan? How do you usually deal with the rollback plans?
Okay, so Frank, when it comes to technology, it's a journey. Okay, it's a journey. Unlike traditional softwares that when you buy it, you install, you double click, you install it, and you're gone.
Plug and play.
No. Enterprise technology doesn't take that shape. It looks at it from gathering the requirements, business process, even the people's orientation and mindsets. You need them, okay? And then the change management, and then you even have to decide on which transition plan you intend to use. Is it a big bank? One day you wake up and they say you've changed over. Are you going to run in parallel? Are you going to run serial? You have to agree on how you intend to transition. But normally what we recommend is that you run your legacy system not less than 24 months. okay, not less than 24 months. And then by virtue of the cloud computing that we have or the cloud enterprise systems, you realize that once you position the environment, you may have done your data move, you've moved your data from the old one to the new one, which some call data pump, okay, extract, transform, and load it into the new environment because the architecture may not be the same. Once you do that, and then you move the information to the new system, there's what we call the failover, there's what we call the disaster recovery, and there's what we call the backing up, okay? And all these things will give you an uptime of 99.9% within the cloud space. You're not losing your information, but the end of science is God, okay? I'm a Christian, and the end of science is God. With all these measures in place, anything can happen. So we recommend that you run your legacy system not less than 24 months. Once you are fully stabilized and transitioned, when you know that nobody needs any information from the legacy system, that you've been able to validate that whatever, if it's 100 in the old one, the same 100 is here, and you've been able to test the two at the same time concurrently, and this is giving you expected results, then you decommission the old one. Yeah.
Okay, so that is a very, very deep explanation that you have provided. We are looking at a situation where you have run it for 24 months and you are sure you've checked the numbers, everything is all right. The day you decide to, one day you just decide to go live and you realize the new one won't just boot up.
Okay, so in the space, we have what we call the disaster recovery plan. Now, I presume that we've gone live. We've used the system for about 24 months. It's working. All our data are intact. But when we are using, the lead or the head of that particular enterprise system must have what we call the disaster recovery plan. Okay, which covers the backing up and all those things, the failover and all. It's system. Anything can happen. So when that plan is there, it means that at every point in time, you may not lose all the 24 months, but you may lose maybe a week or a day based on the frequency that you have been actually be doing the various backing up or the cloning or the checklist. So you realize that what you position is that there are even instances whereby a company will have two different systems, okay? We point to you to what system at what point in time. So for example, production and then what we call pre-prod, pre-production, a staging area. We clone production to this area at all points in time T. On a daily basis, that is being cloned. Then the other one, which is the test environment, is for training. So when production is down and we cannot find information, we cannot find only 1 day's transaction, then we point you to the pre-production. You work there as a production. Okay, it's lesser evil than losing everything.
I get you.
Then finally, we find a way to ensure that we bring the production back and restore the same state. If you are not able to restore, let's say, yesterday's data, we leave it and then we let you start again and tell you that, okay, unfortunately, we are still looking into it. We'll come up, but there should be a report where it's being given to compliance to see what happened within the digital space. If not, one day we'll be held to ransom. So the disaster recovery plan is very essential for all organizations at the enterprise level.
Okay, so what do you recommend in a situation where you don't have, let's say, the one that is maybe for training or other things that you can fall on? How feasible is it to have a redundant system and also build your system in such a way that when the main breaks down, the system can easily switch to the redundant? How feasible is this in your line of work?
Okay, so these are the what we call now in the space is possible. It has been done. There are use cases around. That's autonomous data warehouse and autonomous database and autonomous application management systems. So when there's any challenge, it switch over. And what happens is that for that one, the replication service is real time. So whatever is on A is on B, but one becomes the master and the other one becomes the child. So that is how it happens. So intelligently, it actually changes over, and that is where you see the blend between the natural intelligence and then the artificial intelligence taking shape.
Okay, that's great. And in all this, we are talking about project management. We've spoken about the people side. We've also spoken about the risk and then scope among the other ones that we have discussed. They all boil down to the cost.
Yeah.
What items would originally feature on your cost items, and for that matter, on your budget in your space of work?
Okay. So, Frank, I'll put it this way. Cost is a bit relative. I can buy this pen, okay, let's say $10,000. I can buy the same pen at 1 cedi, but the relativity of the costs is what I use the pen to get.
Okay.
Okay. So when it comes to the technology space and the cost components, it's quite tricky. I'm sure today, very simple, somebody can tell you that I can give you a website for 1,500 Ghana cedis. Somebody to come and tell you that I'll give you a website for, let's say, 100,000 Ghana cedis. Okay. Now, the two components, the next question that you ask is that, what is the intelligence system behind just people visiting my websites?
Yeah.
How do I get the information of the people to unlock revenue?
Yeah.
Because I'm sure you're not putting the website there for putting sake. So if I'm looking at it from that trajectory, what it means is that if you visit my website, I should know where you're visiting from, what is your area of interest, without you having to answer any survey.
Okay.
I should be able to use that one to learn you, even when you are gone. Okay, when you are gone, I should be able to use that one to learn you, and then on the click of a button, for me paying the 100,000 cedis, I should see the next possible things or actionable insight that I can use to get what you're looking for. So that is how we may want to look at it from a cost point of view. Now, in the various elements, you may want to look at infrastructure. Okay, you may want to look at the software aspect. You may want to look at network. You may want to look at cyber security. You may want to look at the specialized resource, the people resource that you need. And then you may want to also put in some cost component to quality assurance and even the PMO office itself, because it must be well resourced to be able to ensure that the delivery is being is giving the right expectation as designed. So these are the various cost components. And then one other area that we may have an oversight is the integrated supply chain conversation, where everything must revolve around the same thing without any disconnects. When the supplier came in, what the supplier brought in, their purchase order, okay, after it was received, a system-generated GRN is being generated. Automatically, we don't need any human being to go and then create an invoice. System creates it upon receipts, and then finally, payment is done. And then a check is finally printed for you seamlessly, so that you realize that the whole value chain is highly integrated. And if you have any third-party integrations, you scope it and find a way to bring the operational system into use.
Right. So, thank you very much. Now, we're looking at the situation where we have project management, as in a case of managing individual projects, as against enterprise project management.
Yeah.
Where we're looking at the portfolio or enterprise-wide strategic positioning in terms of projects and programs. What would you advise for organizations who may want to transition from project management to enterprise project management?
Great. It is an area that I think is growing in Ghana, okay? It's growing because if you look at our landscape, I don't know, I stand to be corrected though, but most of the ones I've seen is running in silos. And every project that comes in, we say that, okay, as for this project, it's for this particular department. So the head of the department will become the project manager and run it, okay? The reasoning is because it's supposed to be, you are the specialized field person in that industry. So we give it to you as a project manager. You double up, addition to your own job, and then run the project, okay? Now, enterprise project management gives a strategic view points of how you actually leverage on all the project's resources or dependencies to ensure that the organization gets value for money, reduce costs, and also get its end results as expected. Very, very, very strategic. And if you bring everything together at the enterprise level and it's being controlled by a chief project manager officer, okay, or a strategic product development person, it becomes easier because that person knows that, oh, as for this one, I know the implication will be here. As for this one, this will be an impact. So you create a synergy between
that's
the whole project's work stream or the portfolios or the delivery.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Thank you very much. We're taking a short commercial break. We'll be back shortly. Stick and stay with us.